Hello writers, come write with me. My name is Mykela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Write with Mykela. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today is the third day of our chapter exchange. I'm making videos ahead of time, so we might not have anyone to email us their first several chapters for a few weeks, and that's okay. If you are writing with me and wish to exchange chapters, then I need written permission to read your chapter on the channel, along with your name or pen name and age. I also need permission from your parent or legal guardian if you're under 18 years of age. If you are under 18 years old and have guardian permission, then I will need a pen name to read your material. Writers may send their chapters in PDF format or Word document format to WritewithMykela@gmail.com. That will be at the end of the video. You will see it. It should also be below. That's WritewithMykela@gmail.com. I'm not making any promises to read every chapter sent to me on the channel, but I intend to read all the chapters sent. The chapters I read will be a second video on Fridays. All chapters read on Fridays, whether they're mine or another writer's work, are copyright protected material, and no one may use any part in writing their own stories. Now, before we start, I repeat that this story is at least PG-13. I will also repeat that it is a rough draft. Do we remember where we are in the story? Do you remember what has happened so far? In chapter 1, a rare and very poisonous snake bit Kilty. In chapter 2, the three friends learned that the cure was in the city of the ancients. And in chapter 4, the three friends started on their journey to find their cure. Let's read chapter 4, the topic of magic. In the morning, Kirian and Kirsha started out again, with Kirian pulling Kilty in the little cart. This time, Kirsha asked Kilty questions as they walked, so at night she could embroider. Near midday, Kirsha said, "Kirian, rabbits can live in these grasses, can't they?" "Yes, I assume so, especially with all the berries out here." "Well, let me pull the cart and you can catch us a rabbit." "Kirsha, all I have is the machete that I used to clear the grass to make our fire, and we haven't ever seen a rabbit before. Why would we see one now?" Kilty quickly answered, "Because Mom wished for it." "Mom?" asked Kirsha. "What?" asked Kirian at the same time. Kilty, Kirian was right. "I cannot be your mother. I'm too young. You're too old." "Oh," said Kilty, as her shoulders sagged a little. Then suddenly she sat up straight and pointed. "Look, Dad! There's Mom's wish! Just like magic!" Kirian peered into the grass. He thought he saw movement. He eased the cart down and reached inside for the machete. He swiftly and easily pulled it from its sheath. Then for a brief second, he saw a whole rabbit. It was light tan, like the grasses, and it turned quickly and darted away. Kirian threw the machete in the rabbit's direction. He didn't think he had even a small chance of killing the rabbit, but he had to try for Kirsha and Kilty. A gust of wind followed the machete as if to direct the machete's course. Then they heard a high-pitched squeal. "Rabbits don't make noise, do they?" asked Kirsha. "This one did!" exclaimed Kilty. "You did it, Dad! You killed a rabbit!" "Some rabbits can squeal," affirmed Kirian. "That is if they are scared intensely." "Well, let's eat," stated Kirsha. "I'll change Kilty's bandage while you clean up the rabbit." "If I killed it," stated Kirian. "I probably just scared it. A dead rabbit can't squeal." Kirian headed into the grass. Kirsha helped Kilty out of the little cart, and she took off the bandage. Soon Kirian came back. He held up the rabbit. "Look, I did kill it." Kirsha smiled. Just make sure to bury the guts. We don't want wolves to come." "Don't say that!" exclaimed Kilty. "Your wishes always come true." "Kilty, it's just a coincidence," stated Kirsche. Kirian put away the machete and got out his pocket knife to skin the rabbit. "Besides," started Kirsche, "I like roasted rabbit, so yes, I wished for that. But I most certainly did not wish for a wolf to come. I just thought of the possibility." Kilty became nervous. Kirian saw movement out of the corner of his eye. He slowly turned to look. Whatever it was certainly was big enough to be a wolf. Then Kirian saw the wolf. He shoved his hand swiftly into the cut open cavity of the rabbit. He easily yanked the guts out and tossed them to the wolf. Kilty jumped. She saw a glimpse of the wolf as he grabbed up the guts in his mouth and trotted away. "See, a wolf came," said Kilty when the wolf was gone. "It's just coincidence," stated Kirsche again, as she shook her head and rolled her eyes. "So, Kilty, how do you think these animals appeared?" asked Kirian. "Magic!" blurted Kilty. Kirsche rolled her eyes again and finished with Kilty's bandage. "Even in ages past, when there was magic," started Kirian, "no one could make living things appear." "Well, she called them then," stated Kilty desperately, "like she calls me sometimes." "Kilty," exclaimed Kirsche as she put her hands on her hips and pushed her eyebrows together. Kirian held up his hand. "I want to know what she is thinking." He turned to Kilty. "How does Kirsche call you?" "It's like the wind becomes her voice, and it tells me to go back to the picnic site, and it shows me the way." "This is ridiculous," stated Kirsche as she threw up her head. "It does," defended Kilty. If the wind is behind me, pushing me, then I know I'm going the right way. If it blows from the side, I know I have to turn the other way. At first," Kilty paused and glanced at Kirsche. She was rolling her eyes and shaking her head. Kilty looked at Kirian. "Go on," he encouraged. "At first," Kilty continued, "at first I turned towards the wind, and it would get stronger. At least twice it knocked me down." "Okay, that does it," stated Kirsche. "When we get back to the village, we are finding you a playmate." "This is quite extraordinary," stated Kirian. "It's a wonder she ever found you at all." "This is nonsense," exclaimed Kirsche. "Surely you don't believe a word of what she is saying." Kirian chuckled. He sat down the skin rabbit on a nearby rock and started their fire. He said, "Kirsche, you aren't listening to me. Think, when we came here, could Kilty see over the grass?" "No, she was too short." "Exactly. Now, I never thought about her finding us because she somehow always did. With her story, I'm amazed that she ever found us at all." "It was magic," protested Kilty. "Kilty, that is enough. Magic was banned from this land long ago. Long ago. If people hear you talk like this, the village will punish Kirian and me. The village may hang us. And where would that leave you?" Kilty hung her head. "Kirsche? No, Kirian, you listen. The wind did not become my voice, but I did call her name over and over. I circled through the grasses, and I found her. You were there with me last time. What happened?" "I was trying to come," blurted Kilty. "I started for you. That's when I saw the snake. I didn't get bit until after you called me." "This conversation is finished," stated Kirsche. She boosted herself up. "I'm going to get berries while the rabbit cooks." Kirsche got a small basket, and after she walked into the grasses, Kilty whispered, "She always knows right where the bushes are." Kirian whispered back, "But we always eat our picnics in the same spot, and the bushes don't move." Kirian went about roasting the rabbit. Kilty thought to herself that While the bushes didn't move, they would get all the berries from one bush one week and another the next. Moreover, she heard the other kids tell stories about searching all day and not finding any bushes with berries. But they never had that problem. After Kirian found a stick for a spit and Y-shaped sticks to hold up the rabbit, Kilty gained courage and asked, "Well, what about the rabbit and the wolf? How did she know where they were?" Kirian turned towards Kilty. "Maybe she felt them," stated Kirian. "Then it was magic," Kilty declared. "Otherwise, how could she feel something that wasn't touching her?" "I don't know, Kilty." "What are you two discussing?" asked Kirsha as she returned. "Answer the question, Kilty. What's 2 plus 5? 7? Answered Kilty. "Why won't you answer me when Kirsha is gone?" Kirian asked. He turned to Kirsha. "Do you keep her mind in your pocket, Kirsha? Are you afraid she will lose it on her own?" "No," said Kirsha, confused. She asked Kilty, "You wouldn't answer him? Why not?" Kirian laughed a little. He stood up. "Kirsha, I'm sorry I lied to you, because I didn't want you to know what we were discussing." "And what were you discussing?" "The possibility of the wolf following us now that I fed it. I told Kilty not to worry. I told her you worry enough for all of us." "I do not," defended Kirsha. "Do you think the wolf will follow us?" "No, the wolf will stay near his pack," responded Kirian. Unless he's a loner wolf," put in Kirsha. Kilty's eyes grew wide with fright. Kirian took the basket and looked in it. "You found all these berries already? And you picked them too? Or was the basket already half full?" "I picked them," replied Kirsha. Kirian handed the basket to Kilty. He told her to use their water and wash the berries. Kirsha reminded Kilty not to use too much water, though. When Kilty started to get up, Kirsha told her to stay put, that she would get the water canteen for Kilty. Near the end of lunch, Kirian decided to tease Kirsha a little. So he stated that he enjoyed the rabbit. Then he asked Kirsha what her next wish was. Kirsha missed the joke. "Oh, I was hoping for some rain." "Rain? Why? Rain will not be good for Kilty." "I didn't want it to pour," defended Kirsha, "but the wind isn't enough to cool us off. I wanted a fine, cool mist in the late afternoon." Kirian glanced up to the sky. It was cloudless. He glanced at Kilty. He picked her up and put her in the cart and whispered to her to pull the blankets over her legs if the sky dropped even so much as a drop of water. In the late afternoon, Kirsha's wish came true. Kirian and Kilty exchanged glances, but neither said a word to Kirsha. After an hour, the fine mist dissipated. In the evening, they opted not to have a fire. The moon gave plenty of light, and the night was very hot and muggy. Kilty walked around some, since she had sat all day. She wanted them to talk, especially about magic, but she would settle for anything. While she walked around, she thought of what she could ask about without getting Kirsha mad or without gaining a lot of lessons for herself. She tried to remember what her parents had talked about. She knew her life with her parents had never been so quiet. Her parents always laughed and joked. They tickled each other. When it was quiet, her parents would be whispering in each other's ears and then quietly laughing, or they would be kissing and hugging each other. Kilty whirled towards Kirian and Kirsha. She blurted out, "Why don't you two kiss or hug? I thought you two were supposed to be married." "We aren't married," replied Kirian. "We just tell the village that." "Well, my mom and dad kissed and hugged," stated Kilty, "and my dad would chase my mom and tickle her." "Kilty, that is quite enough," stated Kirsha harshly. "Now get your blanket and lay down." Kilty fell silent and did as Kirsha told her to do. She hated the silence. It seemed too much to bear. It reminded her all the more that her parents were gone. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Kirian stared at Kirsche. He recovered from his shock and stated, "You were quite rude to her. She's just a child." "I don't want to talk about it," replied Kirsche, irritated. She lay down and hoped Kirian dropped the topic. "Kirsche," said Kirian. He glanced over to little Kilty. He felt badly for her. He felt that she was ready to open up and to share her feelings with them. He wanted Kirsche and himself to do the same. "What?" she asked. "Sit up and listen to me for a minute," replied Kirian. Kirsche sat up slowly and reluctantly. "Kilty is a child." "Yes, we established that," retorted Kirsche. "Would you listen?" said Kirian with a raised voice. He too hated the silence, and for the first time he somewhat realized that Kirsche wasn't quiet because she wanted to be. Now it seemed to him that the quiet enabled Kirsche to maintain her control over herself. It was like with conversation she might lose control. Kirian thought maybe the death of her parents was overly hard on her, but he didn't want to delve into that. So he started with the subject at hand. "She, a child, has noticed that we don't act as a married couple, so I'm sure the village has its suspicions." "And?" questioned Kirsche. Well, maybe we should really get married," stated Kirian. "What? Why? So we can convince the village?" asked Kirsche, abhorred. "No, not to convince the village," said Kirian, frustrated, "but so we can be together." "We are together," replied Kirsche. "No, we aren't. Forget it. Forget that I asked," replied Kirian. He started to lie down to sleep. "Asked what?" replied Kirsche, as she pushed her eyebrows together. "What did you ask?" Kirian sat back up and sighed. "I asked you to marry me." "No, you didn't," said Kirsche in a raised voice. "You said we should marry because the village suspects that we aren't." "Forget it," stated Kirian. "You will never understand." "I don't think that I want to understand," mumbled Kirsche. They lay down to go to sleep. Kirian lay awake a long time. He decided that he was going to do whatever he could to gain Kirsche's trust, so that maybe he could help her cope with her parents' deaths. And after that, maybe she would open up and share more of herself with Kilty and him. He also decided that so long as he allowed the silence and pull... Sorry, the light went out on me. So long as he allowed the silence, it would be the same as pushing Kirsche away. So he would stop the silence and pull Kirsche close to him. And somehow he had to find the courage to tell Kirsche that he loved her. Showing her was not enough. Like when he made the headboard, Kirsche never for once thought he had made it for her. Even now that he told her, she still did not realize his love. He had to speak it to her. In the morning, they found that something had overturned the cart, and something had spread their things all over the ground. They saw large paw prints in the grass and in the dirt, but they didn't have enough experience to know what the tracks or paw prints were from. Kirsche walked over to where Kirian had tossed the guts to look for prints there, but there was just grass pushed down. That has to be edited out because they've walked away from that place. Okay, back to the story. This unnerved them, so after they gathered their things and put them back in the cart, they walked again without talking. After they got away from the campsite, they were able to calm some. Kirian thought of how to word things to Kirsche, and he thought of Kirsche's possible reactions. He wanted to say it perfectly. They did not stop for lunch, but they ate their lunch as they walked. Kilty kept her eyes peeled for an overly large wolf because she was still nervous. This caused her to miss a lot of questions. After a while, Kirsche stated that Kilty's mind was not on the questions, so they would try again later. The third evening when they stopped, Kirsche got out Dr. Hyhan's book, The City of the Ancients, and began reading it. The book was fairly thick, so it would take quite a while for her to finish it, especially since she could only read at night. After she read a while, Kirian asked about Kilty's lessons. Kirsha looked up and shrugged and said simply that sick children did not go to school. "She's not sick," responded Kirian. "Children can go to school with broken arms or broken legs and cuts and scrapes. They do not miss school for such things. Kilty can sit up and read and write." "Kirian, it is summer. School is out for all other children anyway. It won't kill Kilty to have a few days off. It's not like she's behind in her work. She's not behind?" asked Kirian. "No, not anymore. In fact, now she is ahead. That's why I didn't put her in school last year, because I wanted her to be ahead. Kirsha, I don't need all the details or reasons. I was trying to tease Kilty and you. I'm happy to know that Kilty is no longer behind. I wish you had told me. We could have made her a cake or something." "I got berry pancakes for a whole week!" exclaimed Kilty. Kirian laughed. "Oh, I see. I remember that. I got berry pancakes a whole week too." So Kirsha rewarded everyone. "And just who do you think would have eaten the whole cake if I had made that instead?" asked Kirsha rhetorically. She flipped the book closed. "Kirsha, I was again trying to tease Kilty, so she did all the hard work and we were all rewarded. I prepared her lessons. I cooked the pancakes." "Kirsha, you're impossible," laughed Kirian. "Do you ever relax and enjoy life?" "I enjoy crocheting and embroidering." Kilty crawled towards Kirsha and whispered to her, "I think he really likes you. See how he always smiles when he looks at you? You should hold his hand." Kilty giggled. "Kilty," said Kirsha, irritated. She looked at Kirian. "Did you put her up to this?" "Up to what?" asked Kirian. He had seen Kilty crawl over to Kirsha, but he hadn't heard what she said, and he couldn't remember putting Kilty up to anything. "I'm going to sleep. Good night," said Kirsha. She lay down and pulled the covers over her head. She didn't say another word. Kirian looked at Kilty. Kilty sulked back to her blanket and plopped down. She mumbled, "I just want you two to like each other." "Kilty, we do like each other," said Kirian. "Don't worry. Things will work out." They again slept with no fire until suddenly Kilty wanted to know if the wolf would stay away if there was a fire. She explained that they put out the fire for the rabbit before they went to sleep. Again, that scene needs to be edited because they put out the fire before they walked away from there, and they didn't have a fire the second night. I will edit those scenes. Back to the story. It was late in the night, but Kirian got up and gathered some wood and started a fire. Thinking of the wolf spooked him too, especially because he hadn't heard something knocking anything over in their camp. So this is the symbol showing that we're going to the Ulteriorium, or the City of the Ancients. "How are things going?" Arik asked Orisha. Orisha gave Arik a half smile. Then she got up and put away the orb. "Kirian is trying half-heartedly, so Kilty tried to help him." Kirsha just shut down. She is pulling further into herself. Orisha turned and looked at Arik. "Did they discuss magic again today?" Orisha shook her head. "Kirsha can do things outside of the boundaries that we know for magic, but she fiercely denies the magic." "And Kilty?" "Her leg swells and gets stiff, but the herbs help her. Oh, why did the dissenters hurt my weakest child?" Arik wrapped his arms around Orisha. Orisha sobbed, "The poison will inhibit her magic." "No. Kilty is a level L. She should be fine. Level K and below are the ones who have their magic affected by poison." "Yes, but," started Orisha. "But what if we didn't assess her level correctly? I know we missed Kirsha's level." Arik stroked his wife. "Dear, Kilty is level L. She was L at birth. We missed Kirsha's level because no baby ever born has ever had a level higher than R at birth. Kirsha passed the R test. We have no test for babies for anything higher. Come, let's go to sleep. And I think tomorrow I'm going to hide that orb. I'm tired of seeing you sick with worry. No, please, Arik, pleaded Orisha. That's the only way I get to see my children. Arik smiled gently at her. Orisha, you need to see our people. They want to see their queen. I know, Arik. I will visit the people tomorrow. Just don't hide the orb. And please watch the children while I'm away. I'm coming with you. There's nothing we can do for the children. Orisha sighed. She knew Arik was right, so she went to bed without saying another word. And that's the end of chapter 4. I know some of you are probably thinking that the friends should have a closer relationship than they do, but when I explained the shared plot, I told you the friends could have known each other since kindergarten, or they could have just met. Well, in chapter 1 of this story, you learned that my characters met approximately 3 years ago. And today you learned that Kirian and Kirsha aren't married as the villagers think they are. Still, the wise seers brought these people together for a reason beyond their comprehension. I don't want you to change your story to match mine. I want you to have fun. My story isn't the right way to write out the plot. And I can't wait until some of you share your chapters in our chapter exchange and I can read them, with your permission, of course. Then my viewers will see and hear some stories where perhaps the 3 friends met on day 1 of the story. Just think of a major event, maybe not as drastic as 9/11, but that's a good example. There are probably people that survived that and met people that day that they hadn't known before. And they're probably friends today. That event pushed them to be friends. That life or death moment brought them together. They may have helped each other survive. That major event was a catalyst for their friendship. So the characters in your story could meet on day 1, but instantly have a strong bond. A bond strong enough to go on a journey together. You are the writer. You get to decide lifelong friendship or instant friendship. Take the shared plot and make it your own. The shared plot is a seed to help us start. Now, in my story, you haven't really seen an antagonist yet. You've heard about the dissenters, but you haven't met them. Still, the characters have issues among themselves. They are committed to helping Kilty, but there are unknown issues between them, mostly their past. This is some of the character building that I'm doing. That's how I generally write things. On Tuesday, we will talk about perspectives, and that will be important as you have more than one character in your story. Even if you write a story where you narrate the whole thing, you still need to be able to look at things through this character's eyes and that character's eyes. You are the writer, and these characters that you create, that they're your characters, yet the characters need to be distinct enough to your readers. As events happen, different characters will feel and react differently. Leave a comment and let me know what chapter you're writing, even if you aren't sharing your chapters, and let me know how long ago your friends met. Join me Tuesday and we will write from 2 perspectives. Join me Friday for chapter 5, Spider Mounds. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications so that we can continue to write together. Soon you can visit my website at www.bymykela.com and read some character bios for my Mykela series. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with them. This is Mykela with Write with Mykela. Bye for now.